Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this forum. I would like to share with you my ideas about how can NGOs contribute to preserve the linguistic and cultural diversity of our world. As all of you may know, the associative fabric and the strength of civil society have contributed decisively, especially since the middle of the last century, when the processes of globalization began, to change and improve many aspects of our world. So, the need and importance of NGOs has increased since then, and it's still more and more necessary. Its role through awareness and education has been essential, and its effectiveness widely recognized to mobilize citizens, to force legislative changes, or to reorient political and economic measures, especially in relation to problems of global impact, such as the climate emergency, attention to refugees, or others related to humanitarian affairs that can or that affect a very important part of the population and that cannot be solved or addressed from one or a few countries. With regard to the protection of language and cultural diversity, if we look at the involvement and participation of civil society, we must approach it from a threefold perspective. On the one hand, using and strengthening international NGOs, in fact there are very few, such as Linguapax, to generate and consolidate a common discourse in favor of diversity. To influence reflection and global political action, it is essential to have as a reference an independent and plural NGO without partisan or ideological agendas, which is a meeting place to look at our environment from the prism of linguistic and cultural diversity and to explore how this diversity can promote intercultural dialogue and contribute to peace, both globally and locally. This kind of organizations allow us to jointly analyze the transformations of social, cultural, and political sensitivity in relation to linguistic diversity, in order to propose and to promote new strategies, instruments, and actions that, backed by the expertise and experience of its members, favor coexistence in multilingualism, and also to facilitate international cooperation in favor of cultural and linguistic rights. On the other hand, it is necessary to strengthen the associative fabric and to promote the organization of civil society wherever it is weak or non-existent. It is necessary to give more visibility to support to the work of a significant number of organizations, associations, and groups of people with very diverse characteristics, background, etc., who work for the preservation and development of their languages, from their context and from their specific reality, so that the many successful and effective actions they have achieved can be shared and become inspiring for other communities. There are some examples of powerful organizations that have contributed in a very relevant way to preserving and promoting small or minority languages. Usually, though, they operate in prosperous and aware societies where the pressure of citizens organized around shared objectives and with the involvement of regional or local governments, even universities or companies, have given and still give positive results. However, there is a lot of work to be done for the threatened languages that are often spoken by marginalized and despised communities because of abusive and destructive processes. And it is urgent for these communities to empower and organize themselves to claim their rights and fight for survival and to obtain the necessary resources to develop and equip their languages so that they are suitable for education or to occupy other social spaces, whatever they are. Without any kind of organization, it is very difficult for them to exert the pressure necessary for the governments to stop violating their rights and freedom. And finally, work must be done so that the development frameworks and the intervention measures at global level do not leave out linguistic diversity. We need to work to insert the language factor into the ideology of NGOs in whatever field, incorporating into their strategies also the preservation of the linguistic wealth of our planet, and also for them to respect and use the languages of the places where they respond to humanitarian crises, because the responses are much more understandable, especially during conflicts or natural disasters, in the languages of the people who receive them. There are key findings already in that topic. There is, for example, a project from 2019 titled Listening Zones of NGOs, Languages and Cultures Knowledge in Development Programs, but I'm afraid there's still a lot of work to be done. In my opinion, to achieve these goals, it is necessary to introduce the linguistic emergency and the dangers of the loss of most of the languages and cultures as a relevant part of the constant and systematic information about the climate emergency and the dangers of the survival of humanity that we receive daily from the institutions, the media, and the civil society. As I said at the beginning, one of the main goals of NGOs is awareness. For this reason, it is necessary to make clear and to illustrate in as many ways and forms and as many perspectives as possible the benefits of a quality education that respects everyone's languages and that provides inclusive, equitable, and intercultural environments and opportunities. It is crucial to show that the knowledge about traditional systems of medicine or original food systems transmitted in indigenous languages can contribute to improving health or eradicating hunger. That all the languages have the right to function in digital environments, to access information and language technologies, and to develop artistic creation. That access to justice and public services and the provision of health services are more efficient through the native languages. After several years of analysis, fieldwork, and shared experiences, it is known well enough that the language identity link is essential in the processes of preservation, development, protection, and promotion of languages and the cultural heritage of people, and which becomes a key factor in the construction of cohesive societies and in the consolidation of nations and peoples, especially for those who have suffered colonial processes, but also in Europe, where more than 60 languages struggle to survive, being gagged by the nation states of which they are part. How should we then, NGOs, move forward to make our work more effective? From my point of view, we need to consolidate a common discourse that shows that the disappearance of languages and cultures is a global problem that affects the daily life of communities, because linguistic diversity is linked to improvement of the living conditions of people, showing it as a collective good necessary for the well-being of communities, will be useful for the pacification of conflicts and very useful for communities. To do that, we need to spread the discourse by improving the communication and dissemination of our action, so that we can convince speakers of dominant languages that languages always add, never subtract. And we need as well to contribute to include in the global agenda a long-term commitment to preservation, revitalization, and promotion of indigenous languages. The International Decade of Indigenous Languages will certainly play an important role, but the community's involvement is imperative. how could we NGOs be more effective and efficient? I think there are three aspects in which we have to work harder. Building or strengthening the networks and joint action. Exchanging experiences and knowledge is fundamental. There is a good example in Europe, for instance. ELEN, it's the European Network for Equality in Languages, is a very, very useful NGO because it gives the opportunity to share the expertise, as I said before, but it is also an instrument to press and to try to negotiate with an only voice with the institutions of the European Union. That could be proposed or tried to be done in other regions of the world. Another aspect would be to improve or to increase working in collaboration or partnerships with universities, research centers, or other institutions or companies to develop linguistic, educational, and digital resources. And the third one would be pressuring governments to take responsibility for the survival and development of the languages that are part of their heritage. For that, we need, above all, to increase our resources. We need more citizen involvement, more public funds, and more private contribution. Patronage, encouraging philanthropy, is imperative to increase private participation in common responsibility to this purpose of general interest. If what concerns us is the sustainability of the planet and we work to transform economies and create new job opportunities to make a greener, more digital, more resilient world, we cannot forget the languages that people speak and their diversity. So, to finish my presentation, I would conclude with three fundamental points, which I think they are crucial, or they are how we have to work from now on better. Strengthening the local NGOs or creating some of them where they don't exist, and the creation of regional and thematic networks. This would be point one. Getting more social involvement and more funding, and making the respect of all languages a cross-cutting issue that is included in the ideology of any NGO. All with the final goal to strengthen the value and richness of this diversity and make it more necessary. Thank you very much.